I can smell music producer.
I can too. Where's it coming from?
I can smells a bit
Fishy?
yes. I recognise you from that YouTube
I
channel.
recognise you from that YouTube, my friend.
Good to see you.
Hello.
Good to see you too. This is marvellous. So Mark and James, of course, from Present Day Production. Now, you guys have been killing it recently. Not only do you have an absolutely
thank you.
amazing YouTube channel,
Thank you.
you have gone ahead and built speakers.
We have.
Members of our community are buying your speakers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, doesn't Trevor here like 2 weeks ago picking
Yeah,
some
he
up?
was.
Yes.
A rock star. Trevor Noakes, shout out to you.
Hi, Trev.
We're all big fans.
Love Trevor.
He's
So
one
this-
of them.
And yeah, and he's a connoisseur. He's a man who knows what he loves. So, but we've been talking about doing this for about a year. But I think a little over a year ago, you weren't making speakers, were you? When did you start?
No.
A little over a year ago. Yeah, it was December. Well, we started selling them in December 22.
Wow.
So really not so long. Just
Not
over a
so-
year.
And you're killing it. So let's go and check out your place.
Come and have a look. So yeah, this is the relatively newly acquired workshop. We were building the speakers from the studio,
Right.
which was a nightmare with dust and everything else.
Which we haven't been in yet, which I'm excited to see.
Yeah, that's coming
Because
up
you were a
next.
bona fide mastering engineer.
Yes.
Like the real deal. That's what you
Yeah.
actually do.
A wizard.
Yeah, that's my.
A wizard, apparently.
Well, I don't know about a wizard, but yeah, that's my day job, which really started back when I was a teenager, taping songs off the radio.
Flop.
Oh, there's Flop. Flop the cat. Taping songs off the radio like a naughty boy
Yeah.
onto my
I
Tascam 4-track
I know that.
and going, this one's a bit bassy, and kind of adjusting it as I made cassettes for later on the car. And I realise now that was mastering, basically. So it kind of started from there. But yeah, now we have a speaker workshop. So it was great getting the production out of the studio, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I could only imagine.
It was like, there's someone coming in tomorrow. We've got to move all the glue.
So this is about a year old. This
We got this in September,
Yeah.
so half a year.
Oh
six,
wow.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a lot going on here. Let's go over here. Tell us what you got.
Yeah. So stuff comes in and goes here. So amplifier modules, amplifier cases. We make our own amplifiers using Hypex modules, which are known the world over to be some of the best Class D. Let me grab one.
Yeah, show me, because I am clueless as to what that all means.
So this is basically a 2-channel amplifier module. All of that is the power supply.
Yowza.
That section there is a 250 watt amplifier, and that section there is another 250 watt amplifier. So that is, you feel the weight, that's for 500 watts of amplification.
That's 500 watts.
That's crazy.
Oh, yes.
How big are the transformers that drive this?
That's it, the main, that's it.
The
Yeah,
mains goes in and this is the transformer.
That is the entire amp.
that's the whole thing.
That's incredible.
So super lightweight, super reliable.
Not cheap, I imagine.
No, that you can get cheap Class D modules, but they sound cheap. And Class D, people haven't liked it for the longest time, especially in the studio monitors.
Okay, treat me like an idiot here, because the problem with using Class A, B, C, D is it means different things.
Yes.
But in electronics, if somebody said I've got a Class A amp on a tube amp, everyone would be like, oh, wow.
Oh, well done. Yeah.
So
yeah.
when you say Class D, is what?
So Class D is super efficient,
Okay.
primarily.
Okay.
So it only draws the power when it needs it.
Right.
Whereas with Class A, you're pretty much constantly sucking that power as
yeah.
long as the amp is on.
Okay.
It basically uses switching technology, which has downsides. You have to filter out that switching. But basically, a Class A amplifier, if you've got a 250 watt Class A, that's constantly putting out 250 watts, whether
Yep.
you've got anything going into it or not. AB splits that into 2, and then you've got odd classes like
Is
C and
H,
L and
all that,
things
yeah.
like that. But then the Class D basically does it by very high frequency switching.
Oh, it's amazing. I know nothing about it, but now I do.
And yeah,
Or new.
they sound incredible. They'd be no good for a guitar amp, because if distortion from Class D is horrible, it's almost like digital distortion.
Okay.
But these are super low distortion modules. So for studio monitors, they're perfect.
And this is 500 watts.
500
so
watts. Yeah.
250 watt channels.
Yowza.
So that powers our bass drivers and our mids, and then there's a 100 watt amp for the tweeter on a separate unit.
We had dinner the other night and they were playing Chic. And it said that yowzer, yowzer, yowzer. And I've just heard myself say it twice in the last 5 minutes.
There we go.
Favourite way.
Chic cover you weren't
Thank
expecting.
you, Nile Rodgers.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just was like, what am I doing? That is incredible. And thank you for enlightening me.
I don't know if we've got any tweeter amps hanging around.
I have, yeah. Do you want
Oh,
one?
here's one. That is a 100
Here's one we
watt
made
tweeter
earlier.
amp.
It's incredible.
So again, absolutely minuscule. And that powers our tweeters.
So we have gone from a world where you'd have a pair of NS10s and you'd buy this Yamaha
Huge
power amp that was
Yeah.
like 4 rack spaces and weighed about, I don't know, a person. It
Yeah.
felt like you were lifting a person. To now getting more volume, more amplitude from these two little things.
From that, and the upside of that is, so with the old Yamaha, especially if you had an old Class A amp,
Yeah.
that's 90% heat, 10% sound.
Yeah.
These are 90% sound, 10% heat, so they're much more efficient.
Was this kind of technology always available, but just incredibly expensive to make?
No, it's really been around since the 90s, and it sounded awful for the longest time. So a lot of it was used in, it's fairly cheap to manufacture, so a lot of it was used in sort of cheap consumer devices. And then it started to find its way into some very sort of cheap, low-end studio monitors, just because it was so cheap to manufacture. But it just didn't sound very good. It just sounded like digital distortion
changed?
all the time. What changed was a man called Bruno Putzes, whose name I've probably pronounced completely wrong.
Well, sorry, Bruno.
Who's Belgian, I think.
Yeah.
And I think he did a lot of R&D at Philips, who were really big on Class D, and basically removed all the problems. So all the distortion, all the noise, all the kind of frequency switching problems. He found ways to fix that, and then moved over to Hypex and developed these very modules with them. So this is fairly recent. This is only sort of 10 years ago. And then all of a sudden just got Class D sounding really good. So this basically, you put something into it and then it comes out louder, and it doesn't really do anything to it at all. It's like just having
it's very
clean, natural
transparent
gain.
sounding.
Yeah, very transparent. And he's now moved on to Purify, who make our bass drivers. So he's quite involved with our speakers in a lot of different
Have you
in a
met
lot
and
of different
spoken
ways.
to him?
I haven't met him. No,
Bruno,
no, we need to.
We need to talk to you.
We do, yeah. So yeah, he really fixed all the problems with Class D, but at a price. So these are pretty expensive compared to a lot of sort of Chinese-made competition. But,
So where is this made?
these are the company's actually Dutch, so most of their stuff is assembled in Holland, but the actual board manufacturing is done. They've got their own factory in Malaysia, and the quality control is fantastic. I mean, how many Hypex modules have we bought in the last 2 years?
3 figures.
Yeah, and we've had one
One that's gone wrong.
that doesn't work, and
And
super.
Hypex will replace it. So
Yeah.
it's a non-issue.
Yeah,
Marvellous.
and super reliable in the field as well. So we've had no warranty issues at all so far.
When did you ship your first pair?
So the first pair was shipped. So the first pair was sold in December 22 after
Right.
about 6 months of development. And then the first one shipped in about March 23. So about 3 months from
Who
getting
bought the first
order
pair?
It was a guy in Canada called Jeff Waddington.
Yeah.
Who it actually turned out after he received the speakers, so he didn't tell us before, after he received the speakers and had some time listening to them, he was super happy with it. And then he said to us, oh, by the way, I've been designing speakers for 60 years. So he's like,
We were like,
super
oh.
qualified to give us like this amazing feedback.
That's incredible.
And yeah, he was over the moon with them. And then that's continued. I think we're in about 23 countries already. And we've had 100% of our customers super happy. Never had a return. So yeah, absolutely loving
Well,
it.
you sell direct, so you don't have that.
We do, yes.
Markup.
So that's actually something that I have to clarify quite a lot with people that get in touch. So our Mum 8, for example, which is a 3-way speaker, retails for $5,995, including
Right.
that. It will perform equal to a speaker of around £10,000 to £12,000. So we're making big steps into kind of competing against the big guys, if you like.
Yowza.
So it's
did
been
it again.
a crazy journey. New favourite word.
All right, so speaking of which,
Aha.
I see grey
Speakers.
boxes over
Empty
there.
boxes.
I see cabinets.
So all of the ones on these shelves have been sold already and are just waiting to go out. So these are kind of existing orders.
Congrats.
So one thing that kind of sets the speakers apart before you even get into the whole design is the material.
Right.
So this is a material called Valchromat. It's basically a high density fiberboard. It's like MDF on steroids, basically. And it's solid as a rock and super heavy, super dense.
What is the difference between that and MDF? Because if I was to look at it, it looks like MDF to me. So
when we did our original designs of speakers, we were building them out of MDF. This was when we were prototyping the original design, but the problem was finishing it. So at some point you have to paint MDF or put a veneer on it or something like that. In our case, we were looking at painting it, but it was going to put an extra $1,000 per pair onto the cost. And we were like, that's ridiculous. We need a better solution. So we did loads of research, found this material, which we'd never heard of before, and it solved a hell of a lot of problems. So Valchromat comes in, I think for us, we're able to get it in 11 colors as a raw material.
Oh,
so
I
you
see.
Can get,
so that is the raw
here,
material. That's not painted.
No, so this is black Valchromat, light grey, and then there's dark grey, red, green, blue, yellow, purple, whatever. Which means we buy the material in whatever colour people are ordering, and that is how your speaker gets coloured. So the difference here is this is an unfinished black, so you can see the speckling on it, and it's a slightly smoother material. And then this has been monocoated, so we use something called Rubio Monocoat, which is basically just like a sealant essentially, and it kind of just increases the vibrancy of the colour. And
where do you coat it?
Here. Everything
where
is
are you
done
spraying
here.
it and doing it?
So everything is done in this building. There's what we call the dirty room just back there.
Okay, we should see that.
We should. It's not actually that dirty, to be fair, but that's where sanding, monocoating, all that stuff happens, just to kind of keep the rest of the workshop as tidy as possible.
What does the MUM stand for?
So MUM means modular upgradable monitor. So something that we thought was a thing missing from speaker design was the ability to upgrade without a massive amount of faff. So if, for example, you buy a small 3-way monitor, but you want more detail or you want kind of better transients or whatever, you'll have to sell that speaker on eBay or Facebook and mess around with all that, and then you have to buy a new one. With the MUM 8, our 3-way model, so actually what would be better is showing you this pair here. So this is an upgraded version. So we start off with silk mid and tweeters on the base model, and then you can upgrade to beryllium mid and tweeters for more kind of detail, more kind of dynamic.
It's probably quite an expensive upgrade. The beryllium is not cheap, is it?
1,500 quid for a pair.
For a pair? Okay.
For a pair.
If you're already 6,000 in, I suppose.
Yeah, so you can buy them straight from us, upgraded. So this pair will go out to a customer upgraded already. So that will be $7,500 up front.
Quick dumb question. This is here because the tweeter can be there and it can be laid on its side.
Yeah, so that's for the tweeter to go on its side. And then the woofer often raises quite a lot of questions.
Because of this.
The number one question is it broken? No, it isn't. So we use woofers by a company called Purify, which again, Bruno Puzzi's the same as the amp design. And
you know he's going to apply to have half ownership in this company, sorry, by the end of this video. Yeah.
Fair enough. Bruno, you're welcome.
So
that's going to be used in the court case, that phrase.
Yes. The design of these woofers is hugely complicated. There's a lot of patented technology within these, everything from the motor to the magnet assembly. Everything in it is engineered to be as top-notch as it can go. The surround...
That's what I'm thinking about.
The main thing that people ask about. Mm-hmm. So on a regular woofer, let me go grab one. Fast forward in a cartoon style. Here's a woofer we don't use. So on a regular woofer, you'll see there's a massive half roll surround.
Yep.
And then as the cone moves in and out, the surface area of that half roll surround changes, and then that creates distortion. On the Purify ones, because of that, it's basically a mathematically calculated shape.
Oh, thank you.
There's one on its own.
As if by magic.
As the cone moves in and out, this warps to maintain the same surface area, thus almost completely eliminating radiation distortion from the surround. So it looks a bit weird, but there's a scientific reason for that particular shape of surround.
Okay, I see. So basically you're saying as this goes down or out, I suppose, either direction, The surface area remains the same.
Yes.
Because this is expanding and that is contracting, etc.
Yeah, which eliminates radiation distortion. And it also makes the driver a lot more stable. So
surprised nobody thought of that before. It took a long time.
I know it took them a long time to do the design.
Yeah, it's very difficult to manufacture as well.
But in terms of stability as well, if you film a driver in slow motion, a bass driver, quite often they wobble like a cymbal when you hit them.
Yeah.
That doesn't. That just stays rock solid. It just goes in and out. So there are so many advantages to the.
So it doesn't have that kind of blah, 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 blah when you're doing 20, 30 hertz.
Exactly.
So
there are so many advantages to using that woofer. It's changed the way we hear bass, for sure.
Is this customizable by the customer? So if they want to put it on the side, or you do it yourself?
Yeah, dead easy. So, I mean, if you want to do it yourself, it's as simple as take 3 bolts out, take the spade connectors off the back, so there's no soldering at all. And it's the same for if you decide to upgrade them in and tweeter. No soldering, just spade connectors. Great. You literally just unscrew it, pop them out, pop the new ones in.
So this is movable, upgradable. What else? Is there anything else about this that's upgradable?
So,
yes.
Have we got an amp?
We have.
So, at the moment, this is the Mum 8 amp, which you can have either on the back of the speaker or you can rack mount it, hence why it's in a rack case. And
voila.
Eventually, so this kind of lays the framework, it's not available yet, but it's laying the framework for future DSP and amp upgrades as well. So the idea is a fully modular speaker that you can upgrade. So again, Hypex DSP, so the same as the Class D amps. So you've got analog, XLR and RCA, and then digital AES, SPDIF and optical Toslink. So you've got a massive selection of inputs and outputs, and you can daisy chain over stereo.
So is the DSP available yet? It's about to come out.
So the DSP on board controls the crossover for now. If in future we're able to, then yes, we'll implement a more complex version of the DSP.
Yeah.
There is already a user definable EQ on it.
Okay.
But in terms of like other manufacturers' complexity, we're not there yet, but we're getting there.
So basically at the moment, that's about the best DSP and Class D technology available, but it is improving so fast all the time, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
In 10 years' time, there will be better DSP, and that might include fantastic room calibration. The Class D amplification might have got even quieter. I mean, it's pretty silent at the moment, but it's improving. So you'll be able to take the amp pack off, replace it with a new one, and you've got the latest technology.
No, you use the Trenov in your own room, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So have you talking to them about doing you a version, seeing as you've sold many units for them?
Well, the thing is, we love the sound of the Trinov more than any other calibration hardware.
Which is understandable. It is about 10 times the price of its nearest competitor.
It's much more expensive. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any other speakers that have it built in. I don't know if they've done that with anyone.
No,
so if we could be the first, that would be great.
Which is understandable. And if you're building a flagship product like that, you know.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have a partnership with Trinov. We can, the new, what's it called?
Nova.
Yeah, we do a bundle of those with the Mum 8 where you can save a few hundred quid on the two.
So at the moment as well, obviously, we've got the Mum 6, which is the 2-way monitor, the Mum 8, which is the 3-way with an 8-inch driver.
3K for the...
3K for those, 6K for the 3-way.
Yeah.
And then we're also working on the Mum 10, which we're super excited about. We've already taken a few pre-orders. Which has got a 10-inch purified woofer, which has just kind of come out. It's a brand new product.
What's the output of that?
We are still working on what it will be. It will require a 500 watt bass channel on the amp for sure. So it's a bit more meaty. I think it's about 400 watt woofer from memory. But
yeah, we're just waiting for those to arrive.
We still need to do a lot of testing.
But that's a little baby. That's the
very
6.
nice.
Sorry, I'm just handing you loads of stuff. And then
no. I like
Take
this.
a speaker.
Not
I like
taking
this.
it back from you.
I like this. This is, what I enjoy about this, and you keep this on camera. What I enjoy about this is you're not precious. You know, sometimes we do these things, and it's like, don't touch.
Yeah, not
this is more real for me. This is awesome.
So the amps on these ones are built into the back. You can't rack mount these ones.
Yeah, so that's a traditional plate.
Which is understandable.
Because that's the thing. Our
quite 19
audience are heavily involved in the development of our products. We say to them, what do you want? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? So with this one, we built the Mum 8 first. So we set the idea out for that, did it, started selling them. With the Mum 6, we said to the audience, do you want a rack mountable amp or should we just put it in the back for portability reasons? Audience voted that, that's what we did.
What is that, a display on the front?
Yes. So we'll show you that in the studio.
Okay, great.
It's basically an OLED display which has a receiver for an infrared remote as well. So when the speakers are turned on, it shows our logo on idle, and it also shows you which preset you're on, because there's various DSP presets, internal amp volume, which input you've selected, because there's 5 inputs on it. So a whole load of information. And if you want to pay a little bit extra, you can have your own logo on it, like Trevor has done. So he's got his own logo on his Mum 6s.
Lovely. I want to see the dirty room, unless there's anything else you want to show.
It's a little ugly.
Oh no, that's good.
The dirty room.
Voila.
It's not that dirty, actually.
But I know what you mean. You don't really want all your electronics full of dust.
All your dust and that kind of stuff.
So this is where Nige, our sanding superhero, comes in 3 days a week.
So that is a pre-routed, pre-sanded Mum 6. So that's how they start. All glued together and dominoed together.
Yeah, and then he'll sand away. And then the actual coating process, we've tried to be as environmentally as aware as we can, which is why we didn't want to go for a spray painted finish, because not only is it really expensive, but it's really bad for the environment with all that toxic fume coming off. So the stuff we use is called Rubio Monocoat, which is this. It's a bit grubby. This is 100% organic. So there's no harmful VOCs and all that stuff in there. It's a 100% linseed oil based natural material. No spraying involved. You literally pour it on a sponge. You put it on with the sponge. You leave it alone for 10 minutes. You wipe it off with another sponge. Done. That's it. So
nice.
No mess, no fumes.
Every kid that wants to build speakers now is making notes here.
yeah. Rubio Monocoat, fantastic stuff. Basically, the finishing's really difficult, so we needed, and we wanted to keep it in house, so we needed something that an idiot could do, and that's me with that.
I own the idiocracy here.
Yeah, that and 2 sponges, great. I can do that.
Yeah,
so yeah, that's been fantastic.
Incredible. And this is, I'm not going to press a button because this will probably...
Yeah, so that's the sander. So most people hate sanding. I hate sanding. Nige absolutely loves it. So
finds it soothing.
Yeah, he absolutely. Yeah, he'll put his headphones on, and we've got him a pair of sort of noise cancelling Bluetooth headphones so he can listen to his podcasts or whatever. And
amazing.
He'll just come in here and just love
staying here for 8 hours.
It is quite satisfying when you sort of take it from that to the finished thing. It is quite satisfying. So I understand it. But yeah, he loves that. So
lovely.
Well done, Nige.
Well, where to next? As far as
studio.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Okay. Suppose walk this way.
What have you got there?
Oh my God. I think we have the first ever pair of Purify PTT10s that we have received.
Purify PTT10. TT10.
So we got
knew you were coming.
The 6.5-inch woofers in the 2 ways.
I called ahead.
8-inch.
I made it happen.
And now...
Thanks. We've been waiting for this for ages, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
He said don't use that.
There goes the cone. Damn.
So we've been waiting for these for a while. This is a brand new model of woofer.
Nice.
Literally just released. So we've been waiting for these for ages.
So this will be the fundamental component of the Mum 10. This is where we find it's not that at all. It's a cat basket.
I'd be happy with that.
In the wrong basket. In the wrong box. Yeah.
Yeah. Bubble wrap.
Knifey knife. Ooh. Feels like Christmas.
Oh, let's close that.
I see. I was thinking, how do they fit 2 in there? And I see, logically, they're opposing.
Ooh.
That's a
beautiful.
Nice indeed.
That's a chunky bass driver, isn't it?
So this is the OEM version as well, and you can tell because the magnet is black. On the publicly available ones, they're red.
Yeah, they get a shiny sort of coat of paint. That's
beautiful.
Yeah,
that is a sexy driver.
Do you have a cabinet ready to drop it into?
No.
No, we haven't.
Because that's the thing, we've been waiting for these for a while because there were various things during the development of these drivers that meant they get pushed back every now and then. So we've been kind of working on designs on paper for this, but there was no rush to get it ready because we didn't have any woofers to put them in. Now we've got that, we'll be up until 6 in the morning designing cabinets. So, yes,
nice.
Come back tomorrow, we'll probably have one.
Yep, that'll be.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow.
Me with another 35 boxes.
Yeah. That's something I have seen is where we've had obviously a couple of years experience now in designing speakers, the process gets faster each time.
So you're going to go to 17 this time?
Exactly.
Half.
Maybe 34.
34.
No, so obviously because the same theory applies between each of our speakers, it's basically rinse and repeat knowledge, just with different sizes and dimensions to play with. So the whole theory is that it gets easier each time.
So you made me wonder, do you pack inside any kind of baffling in there? Because I see drivers, I see cases, but...
So we've got a double thickness baffle, it's a 38mm baffle.
Yeah.
And then there's foam that goes inside
for
resonance reasons.
Yeah, to stop the resonance. There wasn't much resonance in the cabinet at all because of the way we sort of designed the proportions, but there was a tiny resonance which you could only really hear on spoken word.
Yes.
And it just sounded like a tiny little bit of feedback. There was just a bit of a on the end of some sentences, and we were like, where's that coming from? What's that? So honed it down, and then again, the experimenting with what to put in it to kill that was a huge, long and drawn out process, because put too much in, it kills the energy from the bass driver and you lose a lot of low end. So you've got to get the balance right.
And what's your ported versus non-ported kind of?
We tried
theory?
ported. The advantage of a sealed enclosure is that you haven't got any of the compromises of a port, which are a fairly narrow Q at the port frequency. Below the port frequency, the bass just rolls off literally like falling off a cliff. With a sealed enclosure, you get a much more gradual tail off in the bass response. And the sealed enclosure is far tighter because you're using the air in the box as a spring. So when that driver goes back, it's pushed back very quickly by the air.
I'm glad you did that with the speaker. I'm looking at it again. I'm not going to touch that. It's brand new out of the box.
Brand new, so you get a much faster transient response and much tighter bass from a sealed enclosure. The downside is you get half the efficiency because you're not using the rear energy. You're trying to get rid of it. But with the improvements in the Class D amplifier technology, you've seen how small a 250 watt amp module is.
My guess is, from what you're explaining, that with a ported cab, you correct me if I'm wrong, which I quite likely am, is you have a lot more control over the speaker. You know when it goes to one environment or another, you can really manage it a lot better than you can with, say, the bass frequencies coming out the back, the rear of a cab, and you don't know what room it's going in and how your speakers are going to sound. My guess is a non-ported one is a little bit more predictable.
Much more predictable,
right.
Yeah. So you haven't got to worry about distance from a wall. If you've got, so the Adam we've got there to listen to our podcasts on, they're rear ported. Yeah. So that port will act very differently on the end of that shelf than it will if I put it in a small bedroom studio up against the wall. So that's it, it can be more difficult to manage. And you get used to the sound of a port. I mean, most manufacturers these days get it right. So ATC are all ported, I think, apart from the SCM 20, the very small one. Yeah. And, they've spent 40 years developing their ports and they know what they're doing, and you don't hear the port at all. But you do hear some things that physics are just there and you can't get rid of them. One is a ported speaker at low volumes, you don't get any bass because it needs a certain amount of air moving in that port. Same as if you blow down the trumpet. If you go, that's all you'll hear until you get enough air going through it to activate the...
Conversely, does that mean it exaggerates loudness effect when they're ported? Meaning the louder you get, the more the low end comes up?
No, not necessarily. It's just that sort of threshold you need to get to before the port.
So it's not it doesn't grow exponentially.
No, it's sort of like you can hear it when you turn the volume up. It's like someone suddenly flicks the port on, and it's like, oh, there's my low.
But then it does stay even.
It does stay even up above that.
I'm starting. I mean, I think you guys are like the 5th or 6th speaker manufacturer I've done a tour of. I'm starting to learn some stuff here.
Yeah. Just starting. There's a lot we're still on a huge learning journey as well.
But isn't that the thing? Isn't it always been?
Yeah, and that's been the fun of it. And we had several ported designs, didn't we? And one was just like one actually was knocking plants over in the studio. It was like a tornado. We're like, okay, that doesn't really work.
I've had that experience. You've got a group of people around you. You're playing back the track, and you're literally being. So much air is hitting you every time the kick drum goes.
Yeah, you can hear it in your hair. Well, not so much in my case, but you just feel that blast of air coming out at you. And that's another advantage of the sealed, is that you haven't got that at all. But the big downside is lack of efficiency. But with the excursion, I mean, this has got a 50mm excursion, so that cone will move in and out 50 millimeters or 2.
I want to see this in action.
Or 2 inches.
Well, not this one because it's not ready, but the 8-inch.
Yeah,
I want to see that.
Yes. So let's go in the studio.
Let's check it out.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I'm going to see this. I know you guys have made sure it's nice and pretty.
Yeah.
Now that I've thrown him under the bus, it better be.
I spent all day tidying.
Yeah, picked up the dirty pants off the floor.
So this
Oh,
is
wow.
where...
This is where it all happens. This is where the magic happens.
This is where YouTubey magic happens.
Yowza, you have 5 cameras?
We do indeed. So apart from this one here, the setup is
3.
almost entirely Blackmagic. So Blackmagic Cine cameras, 2 studio cameras, and then a Blackmagic desk. So I can edit the live stream live as it goes out, do all the video switching, which saves a whole hell of a lot of time. So that's kind of the live stream side of the room. And then there is video editing. So DaVinci Resolve, again, Blackmagic pretty much everywhere.
How are you processing your mics? I see they're Lewitts. How are you processing them?
Yes, so the desk has DSP in it. So it's got compression, EQ, expansion, everything you need. And it's just got a full mixing suite. Yep, sounds perfectly fine. And it's actually the same audio processing that's found within Resolve, which we do our edits on. So it's super easy to just copy settings across.
Is Resolve Blackmagic's own?
It is, yes. Yep, so we've got Resolve over here, and that's where all of our editing stuff happens. So this is one that's going to go out within the next week or so, like a Phil Harding masterclass. So yeah, this is my room. This is where all the video things happen, and also any kind of speaker design, 3D concepts, CNC designs, and all that fun stuff.
Oh, you've done an amazing job in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
The starry ceiling is always popular as well with visitors.
Did you make any constellations here?
Do you know what? We tried, but then realised it's a massive waste of time.
Yeah,
so that ceiling,
Big Dipper,
right? That ceiling took a week of crawling around on my hands and knees on the roof.
Okay.
It was painful for a week. So in the end, I was like, "We're not doing constellations. We're just having stars everywhere.
We're just shoving through holes.
Just poking through.
Fine.
So yeah, live streaming, YouTube stuff, and then all of the audio editing stuff happens next door. So in here at the moment, basically my problem is we sell speakers too fast and I never get to have a pair. So the pair I've got in here is an old pair. As I mentioned earlier, we were using the Dayton audio woofers in a previous iteration when we first started designing them.
Did you sell them with those drivers?
Only 5 or 6 pairs, and then we upgraded to Purify and then upgraded those customers.
Nice.
So everyone is now on the same system. It's just I have a pair here as spares, so I just use them in here. The ATCs, SCM 200s, and down below we've also got 4 15-inch ATC subs. So they do sound very tasty. However,
one day you'll be making your version of these.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So the Mum 10 XL will happen, and that will be a large format monitor to replace those, so we can sell those and just put our own in the wall. So in terms of hardware, you'll be disappointed to know that almost everything we do in this studio, in fact, everything we do in this studio is in the box.
It is now, yeah.
In terms of hardware,
not disappointed.
The only hardware really we use is the Trinnov stuff for room calibration.
Okay.
So I've got the Nova in here.
Yeah.
And Mark has got the multi-channel MC Pro next door.
But there's a few bits from days gone by you'll recognise. The Dolby unit, the classic Dolby unit, of course, which was a trick we learnt from you. For the top end.
Nice.
And then there's some old broadcast EQs and mic pre's over the other side that we used to use when we were recording bands, but now they're just looking pretty, really.
Well, I mean, I looked at this from a distance and I thought for a second it was a Neve or something with these switches.
No, that's actually an old BBC tape recorder remote.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful looking thing, and it's got that feel to it, that sort of Bakelite knob kind of.
And then also
quality feel.
In the rack just below here where David is, there's also a 24-channel version of this Dolby unit.
It's
down there.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Just in case you need 24 channels of noise reduction that doesn't work. There's the big boy down there. So that's pretty much it for this room. As I said, this room is almost entirely just video editing, so mainly focused around that.
And it's just the two of you?
Just 2 of us, yep, rattling around. In fact, in this building, it's almost entirely me, because Mark's normally in there building speakers.
A lot of my time up there.
So I have this entire place to myself most of the time.
So I tend to come in before you, and I'll do any stereo mastering I like to do first thing in the morning, because that's when my ears are fresh.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I'll get in at 7, whatever, and spend a couple of hours doing that. And then you tend to come in, and then I'll go up to the workshop and do 9 to 6 up there with Nige building speakers, and then come back down, and then from 6 in the evening onwards is sort of Atmos stuff or filming videos or anything else that we need to do. So it's kind of like juggling 3 jobs at once, but none of them are work. So it doesn't matter. It's just we love it, don't we?
We do.
It's just fun. It's good fun.
It's incredible.
Yeah, very lucky to be able to do what we're doing.
I understand. And of course, you have fluffy toys here.
Of course.
Exactly. Yeah,
So-
And a cat bed by your
absolutely
feet.
essential.
And a cat
There are
bed,
cat
oh, yeah,
beds in
for
every
Flop.
room.
There are cat
Yeah.
beds all over the place. Sorry, David.
Flop lucked out and landed in cat heaven.
He did, yeah, for sure.
Flop
yeah.
lives a life of luxury. Yeah, in terms of like mics and stuff, 'cause I know people are interested in that, you'll see a heavy Lewitt influence everywhere.
Good.
So the live stream setup here, Lewitt mics everywhere. So we've actually got the brand new, I can tell you about this because this video will be going out after tomorrow, the Lewitt Ray,
Yep.
which is super exciting and has made an absolute game-changing effect on our live streams. Because you can be so much more flexible with where you are on the mic, and it will just preserve that sound. And then 2 440s there. And then I'll just jump out the way. In that cupboard, we've got
Yep.
the LCT 1040, which is their flagship mic.
Know it very well.
And it's probably our favourite mic ever for vocals, or at least it is mine. The Pure Tube, which is just the tube-only version of that. And then, yeah, just a couple Aston mics, Austrian Audio, limited edition Lewitt down the bottom, the green one, limited edition 440. And then your standard Rode NT1A. And interestingly, this gold one at the back in the middle here is a cheap Chinese mic called an NXL 990. I'll just get it out so you can see it on the camera. It's a cheap mic, but then there's a mod that you can do where you swap out, was it the capsule and
Yeah, you can
transformer
change the
and-
capsule, the circuit board. You can basically change all of it out. And you know the guy. I'm trying to think of his name.
But basically, you swap the components out in this,
Yeah.
and this becomes a killer mic for vocals, particularly female vocals. I've found bass drums, bass guitars.
How much does a
like on
component
amps.
swap?
Not a huge
No, it's a
amount.
couple of $100s. For
Yeah.
the
I mean, the mic,
whole
I think we
kit.
got on eBay for like 20 quid or something, but absolutely killer mic for a lot of vocal stuff.
Yeah, it sounds very much like wherever you'd use a U47, you put that and it just...
So everywhere?
Yeah, everywhere, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other secret superstar of the mic cupboard as well is those really cheap Tascam TM80s, are
Which
they?
ones are those?
Oh, yeah, these ones.
Oh, they're amazing.
So-
I was wondering what those
We
were.
bought these for £40 each in Maplin because we needed some condenser mics. And it turns out that these are absolute gems that no one knows about.
Well, they do now. This is what
They
always
do now.
happens.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
Yeah, you make a
after the
YouTube
release
video
of this,
about it and they're everywhere.
Yeah. They'll be on Reverb 4 times the price.
That's why we said it, really. We just want to sell them.
But yeah, fantastic for like use on toms, on drums.
Tascam TM80.
80.
Yeah, on strings. And they've a 20mm capsule, so it's not quite a small diaphragm and it's not quite a large diaphragm condenser. They're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
But
They
just
sound phenomenal.
Really fantastic sound.
We got
believe
it for
it.
4
No.
quid each.
Yeah.
Absolute steal. And they do the job more than perfectly.
I think they still make them. I think they're still a current model.
Where do they make them?
I'm not sure.
I'm fairly sure they'll be made in China.
Right,
But,
right.
that's not necessarily
Because there's
a bad
that
thing.
kind of... Somebody the other day left a message saying, oh, yeah, you should check out, like, Yamaha mics from the 80s. And it's true, you can get, like, Yamaha... Because nobody thinks of Yamaha as mic manufacturers. But, of course, they probably just threw millions and millions of pounds in development to sell mics that maybe did or didn't sell.
Yeah.
And they're a fraction of the cost of what they're worth. So it's probably the same thing. Tascam are no slack. They're they're owned by TIAC, which
Yeah, exactly.
is
Yeah,
a real company.
Huge company. Yeah.
This is wonderful.
So yeah, this is my room with the Yeti, of course.
Got to have a Yeti.
It's just
Who's the
something
drummer?
I acquired. That is me. Eventually, at some point, I am a drummer and guitarist was a drummer and guitarist in various bands, but just A, too busy nowadays. I just don't really have time, and B, I don't know. I need that motivation to get back into it. I love playing drums. Absolutely love it. It's my favourite thing. I just recently haven't
I understand.
found that kind of. You need to be in the right mood for it.
I play guitar now when I have to for a reason.
Yeah, and it's like the guitars
Yes.
up there. I've got my 3 favourite guitars because at one point I had about 15.
I see the BC Rich, yes.
And I sold them all, just kept my 3 favourite ones. So there's a BC Rich Mockingbird, which arguably I bought because it looked cool. That was the only reason. I always wanted a BC Rich since I was a kid. I just thought they were awesome. This one I absolutely fell in love with. That is an Ibanez RG420 limited edition. So there are 5 variants of this guitar with different like engraved designs.
It looks like Spider-Man meets Batman.
Exactly.
Like Spider-Man wear,
there's
but
5
Batman colours.
Yeah, 5 variants of that guitar, and you can't buy them now. They're limited edition, so I won't let that one go, and it sounds great as well. And then a Les Paul, that's an Epiphone one. But the reason I kept that one is that was the first proper guitar I ever got when I was 12. So.
Oh, you started young. That's great.
Yeah. I was in my first band when I was 11, playing drums.
The BT Rich, it looks like I might be able to use that for shaving cabinets down if I need to.
It could definitely be a weapon.
I think so. Yeah, it's quite terrifying.
It weighs a ton as well. You get a dead shoulder after 5 minutes.
It looks like that.
But yeah, so that's my room, and then let's go next door to the Atmos room.
Great.
Mark's lair. Welcome to my lair.
After you.
Lovely. Wow, yeah, you are Atmos-tastic.
Atmos
to the max.
So this is a 714 system of all our speakers. So we've got the Mum 8 3-way as all of the ground level speakers. And then...
Oh, wait there, I've not even heard anything subby, and now I see subs.
Yes.
We've not had this conversation.
So, the subs in here were built just for us, and they're not a model that we're selling.
Ooh, I see how you
we are actually designing a new subsystem because we're now starting to sell Atmos systems as well.
And because you're working with a different speaker manufacturer.
Exactly. The base difference in terms of quality between the Purify one and those is quite noticeable. And so if we were to sell them, we want to use Purify woofers and everything.
I understand.
So we're working on a passive radiator version of a sub with the 8-inch, which will go down to 14 hertz.
Lovely.
Which is tasty.
I see you're in the decoupling of the decouples.
Oh yes, the most high-end decoupling ever. Foam from speakers.
Packing foam.
I'm waiting for Gearspace to explode now on theories.
It will.
As to why this is never going to work, and this could be the worst system ever because you're using...
Yeah, it sounds awful.
It ruins everything.
So we've actually got various versions of the Mum 8 in here. So obviously it's an upgradable speaker. So the ones on the sides and the rears are the Silk Mum 8s. So this is the base model, and you can tell by the colour of the drivers. The one in the centre is a Beryllium Mum 8. So enhanced detail, transient perception, that kind of thing. And then the left and right have a diamond tweeter. So we go Silk, Beryllium, and then Diamond. And we're actually just about to kind of start working on the Diamond Mid as well. Probably only for the Mum 10, but this is a work in progress. But that will be the third.
You're going to go through all the precious metals and gemstones.
Of course. And then uranium and then...
Uranium,
So yeah, there's
ruby,
kind of one of each in here.
The amethyst.
I'll end up with a coal.
Yes.
No doubt.
So
I mean, it's where it all comes from.
Exactly. Yeah.
All carbon based after all.
So yeah, that's that. And then up on the ceiling, we've got our Mum 6 monitors, which are our 2-ways.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was also just kind of looking. I love the lighting. This is the air vents up here.
Yeah.
So fresh air circulation
in one end, out the other.
Yeah.
And then you can also see the OLED screens we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So if this will all go horribly wrong because it'll turn them all off, but so it will show you when they turn on. It will show you it will show you the logo, and then it will show you which preset they're on, and then the input that's selected. So we're running digital AES in here, and then the internal amp volume, which by default is just Unity.
Amazing.
And then it will go back to idle on the logo, or whatever you choose to have as the logo.
Are these remotely controllable? Not using the remote, but is there a plug-in or something that can control it?
Not yet, but because it's modularly upgradable, when it comes to that time, we can implement an upgrade.
Nice.
That will make that possible.
But the good thing with the remote is you know how hard it is to lean over a console meter bridge and try and faff around with the switches you can't see on the back of some monitors because they're right up against the wall, and the remote just eliminates. Even switching inputs, if you've got something plugged into the analog input and the digital input, you can just switch between them on the remote, so it just makes it much easier.
So so this is all coming in AES. Yeah. So the Trinov, where is that?
So that's in the rack. Yeah. So in this rack here, we have the Audient Aurea, which is doing our main interface out from the computer. We are then running AES from that into the Trinov, and then AES from that to the speakers. So it's entirely digital all the way to the amplifiers, essentially. So there's no conversion until right at the end.
But the Trinov has a plug-in, presumably?
The Trinov is running on it. Well, so there's 2 ways you can do it. You can remote into it using something like VNC, or as we've done, we've just got a screen with a mouse. So it's just permanently there for metering. And then from there, you can do your optimizations and stuff. But obviously, once it's set up, we very rarely actually touch that. You just flick it on and you're done.
So, I'm quite excited. I want to hear the system for the first time.
Cool.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to listen, but we're not going to play the music through YouTube because A, you'll get a false impression because you're only going to be able to hear through these little microphones, and B, because we'll probably get blocked.
Yeah, and you've probably heard the Birdie song before anyway, so you don't need to hear it again.
What we can do is...
Oh,
how good does that drum kit sound for 1960? Whatever.
Can you focus on all my hair staying on it? Yeah, it's ridiculous. You're in the room. Incredible. Now I have heard Rocket Man a million times in a million
I'm sure
rooms.
you have.
It's the standard.
So let's do it. Well, it was the one, wasn't it, for so long?
It still is. I think it's still a good introduction to anyone that's never heard Atmos before because it just sounds very stereo for the first minute.
It does. The acoustic guitars are the defining moment, though, because if it's harsh at all, they rip your head off.
Yeah.
So that I'm gonna warning you. That's what I'm listening to.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really nicely balanced. Really nice. You can tell, like, on the edge, if it's not quite right. That cling over there is going to be like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds fantastic. And it very much what you were saying. I can't remember the name of the album. Joe Bonamassa, Bob Clearmountain mixed.
Yeah.
Do you know which album it is?
I can't remember which one it is.
Can we see if we can find it? Because I've heard that in Bob's room where it was mixed.
Right.
So that would be a great reference for me.
That's the one.
So this would be
time clocks.
Crank it for the rock and roll engineer guy, not the mastering sensitive ear guy, okay?
Yeah. We need to get out of the way of the speakers again, James. That's the problem with Atmos. We're always in the way now.
Oh, low end's great. Nice. We really hear the depth in the drum room. Sorry, loud and obnoxious.
So now,
all the mastering guys in the back of the room are like, ah.
No, now my hairs have gone up because I know that Bob likes to walk around the room.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. And I've just come over and sat next to the Hammond player.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because I'm just hearing Hammond.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm standing next to the Leslie,
amazing.
and the drums are over there, and Joe's over there.
Yeah, you're just in the music.
Yeah.
To me, that's what it should be. Now, don't get me wrong. I think some modern kind of EDM and hip hop and stuff like that is actually perfect for object-based stuff. For just like bomb, bomb. Even though you're saying that you're in the Hammond, when you're sitting in the middle here, it just feels like it's part of a surround, as opposed to like there's a little piece of Hammond coming from that hitting you here.
Yeah, it's just part of the... Yeah, that's a good Atmos mix when you get that sort of cohesive...
There's a really fun one that you should hear.
Please. I love hearing new stuff.
Is that the, let's put the vocals in the ceiling?
Yes, it's the only song I've heard that's done it entirely in the ceiling.
And it works.
It works. It sounds incredible, yeah.
Well, it's like here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like from here to here. I actually love this. This should be done more often. This is beautiful. This is actually closer to how a vocal should be. Maybe it's a very high comparatively. It's sort of here. But I like this idea of a vocal being...
This is taking Atmos and using it as it should be used for a creative thing. And they've completely forgotten where the speakers are. So there isn't a speaker there and there. They just want the vocal there. So they've just put it there.
Superb.
And that is the way to do it.
Agreed, 100%, yeah.
A lot of it's getting a bit formulaic. The vocal always comes out the centre channel. The backing vocals are always pan to the side. Delays always come from the rear. Right. A lot of it's getting a bit, do something different.
Right.
Be creative with it. And this is a really good example of that.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Great work, gentlemen. I mean, the room's big enough. Did you not think about going just the extra speakers, or
we're going to build a larger room at the front, and then we'll go full 916 for there. Yeah,
sure, you could probably put 9.
We probably could. Yeah, we could. Yeah, we've had wides in here. Sometimes this is 914, and we could go an extra one in the.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
in the CD.
Not that honestly, I'm not missing it or anything like that. But I've been in smaller rooms with a full 9.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this room is a good size for the speakers we've got, and I think when we get the Mum 10 up and running, that will really excel next door.
Are you going to put Mum 10 all over the place?
Yeah,
I would really like to.
So ideally, I want, if we've got 8s in here, I want 8s on the ceiling. I mean, the 6s do a great job, as you can hear from the vocal there, and you can hear how high it is. So ideally, I want exactly the same speaker all the way around, and then then they really will disappear, and we'll just be in the sphere of audio.
We'll just have to reinforce the entirety of Epping to hold Mum's hens in the ceiling.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think you've achieved what you want. That because I was just thinking about it. It's very invisible because I'm thinking there's a lot of height on it, but then there's also a lot of width on it. So everything seems to be coming aroundish here. I was actually getting a little confused. I'm thinking to myself, well, can I spot where that's coming from? And I really can't.
That's great. That's what we were aiming for. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, it just feels like I'm in it, and maybe the horns are slightly higher. Came in, and it was like a little bit above there. Because it made me think of it, because when Aletta Adams' vocal comes in, because he basically removed like low, mids and below out of her voice without her sounding thin at all. Yep. So it feels like her voice shifts up because you hear it out all the tweeters only. And it's insane. You know, first time you hear it in a really good room, you're just like, oh my God, her vocal's above Roland's vocal. How do you do that? Yeah. When I talked to him about it, I don't think he was like, oh, really? I said to him, I was like, every major mixer I've ever worked with, just working, they have like 6 reference songs, and every single one of them has Women in Chains. Every one of them. They'll have 5 other different songs, or whatever's hip and new, and a couple of old favourites. But Women in Chains is just there for depth. I mean, even in stereo, it'd be nice to listen to it in stereo on the speakers.
For sure.
Oh yeah, this is going to really show off your tweeters. If anybody wants to know, just play them this.
Oh yes.
The detail is insane.
That's one thing that I'm still finding really frustrating with Atmos is, obviously when you listen to it, it's phenomenal, and then when you go back to stereo, it's just really boring. Yeah. And you're just like, you lose all the immersion. But then you want to hear all your favourite songs in Atmos, and you can't. Yeah. Like, there's a humongous selection, but if you have a bit more of a maybe eclectic music taste, it might not be there yet. And that's really frustrating, because there's a lot of things like, I just wish that was there. I wish that was in Atmos.
Yeah, I would imagine take a poll in Britain on classical music, probably Nimrod or anything from, I could, if it's done properly, I'll burst into tears when it just, it builds, and you think it's just going to crescendo, and it just comes down. It's like, what a moment.
Yeah,
it's
an absolute moment.
Yeah. I can't think of a better Atmos thing. I mean, let's just go to the last night of the proms, mic it up properly all over the room. We'll put a petition together and go and do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, if they can do it like they did with the John Williams stuff, where you haven't got cellos flying around your head and there's no instruments there. Yeah. They're all there. You got the orchestras very much in front of you. You're just hearing it from his perspective, which I think was just literally a 11 mic array above his head,
right?
And hit record, and that was it. So very little sort of post production.
That's amazing.
But it all goes back to the production, really. Again, to get the best kind of Atmos mix, you want to be producing music now for that.
So is this all better than you hoped for?
In terms of what, speaker quality or
everything? Just like the fact that you a year and a half ago started this. 2 years?
I am now super happy with how our speakers sound. Yeah. Like I'm over the moon with how good they sound. Like the number of times we've sat in here until like midnight or 1 a.m, just like, I don't want to go home. I'm not done yet, because you just want to hear more stuff because it sounds so good. And then obviously with the customers being happy as well, that just kind of solidifies that opinion that it's not just us, in our own room where they sound good. It's, other people think they're
it's
good
translating
as well.
to other rooms. And some of these have been installed in tiny, 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 tiny rooms.
Yeah, there's one where the room is like 2 by 3 meters. It's really pokey. But it works.
I think that's one of the things is about the size.
Well, that's one of the things with a sealed cab, as Mark said earlier. You can go low and you still get that good bass representation. So in a tiny room, that works because you won't have to deafen yourself just to get a bass end. So I'm over the moon with how they're sounding. Really, really happy.
The only thing I remember that reminds me of this a little bit was, and it's been 15 years since I heard them, was the Unities. Remember the Unities?
Yes, yeah.
I really like those. Maybe you have this is all from memory, so, which is never a good way of saying, I remember. But I felt like it has a similar kind of feel all the way up to like the high mids as the Unities. The only thing that let the Unities down, I think, was the top, the high highs. And that may be in the ribbon tweetery kind of, whatever it's called, AMT or whatever the trendy word is.
I think in those, yeah.
because I noticed when we listened to Women in Chains, which is a bit hyped, let's be honest, that's a hyped mix,
Sure.
but it was amazing how you heard every single element of the shaker, the whatever it wasn't, maybe it was a cowbell, but this kind of ding ding, every little detail was there, and the movement was incredible. On the Unities, I didn't quite get that because I've been using Women in Chains for years as a reference.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think you've achieved that, and they also were they weren't ported either, were they?
No, they're sealed as well.
Yeah, they were sealed as well. So that's just my impression. They're definitely they're definitely mid-range forward enough, but they're not rip your head off mid-range forward, which is good because it means that you're going to get into all age groups. Because I think part of the problem with some of I'm sure you know this and you've thought about this and designed this, but part of the problem with a lot of speakers that we used to think of as like industry standards, and I'm not just talking about obvious NS10s, but others of that ilk. No kid I know can understand what we're doing listening to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they sit down for the first time, they crank it up like they would at home. They're like, "Whoa, what is going on?
What's happening?
What's the mid-range?"
Turn it up.
Yeah. So, no, these are great. You did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good. I'll take 10 pairs, 50p each. Yeah?
Great. Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
I really
Warren,
appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. We were trying to figure this out. It might be 2 years.
I think it is.
I think it is.
It's been a while.
Well, we got there.
We got there.
Here we are. I mean, 26, 25,
Yeah.
19. Yeah, I mean, it's up.
Plus that, obviously.
Plus a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing us around.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to try and get you to send me a pair of speakers to
Yeah, I think we can.
mess around with.
Yeah,
For sure.
I think we
See
could
how I
arrange-
do that on camera? You see how it works?
Can't say no.
Can't say no.
I'm sure we could arrange that. Thanks,
Thank you.
Warren, for coming.
Thank you.
Out. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for your time.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
There will, of course, be links to the YouTube channel, which you're probably already subscribed to, but if you're not, go and subscribe. There will be links to the speakers and all other kinds of fun stuff. Thanks, everyone. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios. Goodbye, ciao.